Hello everyone from Blue Media Channel. Today, we will closely get to know the Turkish ruler Nuraddin Zengi, who is remembered as the secret conqueror of Jerusalem and was an idol and mentor to Saladin. I narrated the epic struggle of Nuraddin Zengi, the secret conqueror of Jerusalem, in a two-part video series. In the first video, I touched upon Nuraddin Zengi's rise to leadership and his struggle against the Crusaders. In this second video of the series, I will talk about the struggle he left as a legacy to Saladin after his untimely death, passing on his mission to him. We would greatly appreciate it if you could support us by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and not forgetting to turn on the notification bell. Let's get started then. While Nuraddin Zengi was fully focused on the Crusaders, he was devastated by the death of his beloved brother. After the death of his valued elder brother Saifuddin Ghazi in 1149, his brother Qutbuddin Maudud was the first to arrive in Mosul and declare himself as emir. Following this disrespect, Nuraddin, who wanted to annex the city to his territory, took Homs and Sinjar from his brother. However, the Turkish Ghazis of Aleppo managed to dissuade Zengi from this expedition on the grounds that it would weaken his power in the war against the Crusaders. For now, he had to forcefully make peace with his brother, and his brother had to swear allegiance to his brother. After a while, Nuraddin Zengi managed to overthrow the weak Turkish rulers of Damascus and take over the government in Damascus, and he began to get closer to the idea of gathering the Turks and Muslims, which he had always dreamed of, as a single force under one flag, that is, his own flag, and fighting the Crusaders. After this, Nuraddin Zengi had become so powerful that he reached Kayseri, which was once under the control of the Anatolian Seljuks, whom his ancestors served as soldiers, and managed to reverse the roles to the extent that they acknowledged his supremacy. Nuraddin Zengi was so confident that he would liberate Jerusalem that he had a magnificent pulpit built in his name by the artisans of Aleppo and Damascus, just to place it in Al-Aqsa Mosque after the city's conquest. The pulpit, known as the Pulpit of Saladin, after its transfer to Jerusalem following Saladin's conquest, was in fact entirely the work of Nuraddin Zengi. Saladin, a protege and follower of Nuraddin Zengi's path in every field, was the one who eventually realized this goal. By the year 1150, Joscelin II, who shared the same unfortunate fate as his father Joscelin, captured by the Turkish warriors of the Danishmend dynasty, was also captured by Nuraddin Zengi's Turkmen warriors. Subsequently, the French Crusader Count Joscelin II, brought to Aleppo in iron chains and presented before the crowd, was blinded with a hot iron, a punishment method of the Eastern Roman Empire, on Nuraddin's orders. After his imprisonment, he spent the remaining 9 years of his life in the dungeons of Aleppo under Turkish captivity and eventually died in the dungeons of Aleppo Castle. The Islamic historian Ibn al-Athir would say about the capture of Joscelin II. The capture of Joscelin was one of the great victories, for he was a fierce devil, very harsh and hard-hearted against Muslims. His capture was a great disaster for all Christians. In 1152, Nuraddin also captured the city of Tartus in Syria from the Crusaders. In February 1157, the Crusader French king Baudouin of Jerusalem attacked Muslim shepherds despite the truce and stole their animals to pay the debts of his kingdom, starting a new war. Nuraddin, the sole and greatest leader of the Muslims, took immediate action and began to organize raids against the French Crusaders. After this, Nuraddin besieged the fortified town of Banyas at the foot of Mount Hermon and attracted the Crusaders. King of Jerusalem III, who set out, Baudouin took action with the French Knights and the Templars, but was raided by Turkish raiders while camping near Lake Hula and was massacred with his army. While Baudouin barely escaped with his life and took refuge in the Safad castle, Many of his generals were captured by Zengi. Nuraddin had humiliated the Templar and French knights through the streets of Damascus, tying their heads together with ropes and parading them in shame. However, shortly after his victory, Nuraddin fell seriously ill and was unable to pursue his enemies and crown his victory. After that, Raynald of Châtillon, one of the fiercest and most aggressive of the crusading French, and a leading character in the movie Kingdom of Heaven, who was also the ruler of the Principality of Antioch, entered the scene. In the 1160s, while he was carrying out a plundering raid in Marash and the Euphrates River Valley to steal the cattle, horses, and camels of Muslim villagers, the horse thief Raynald of Châtillon was captured by Zengi's forces and imprisoned in the dungeon, where he lived for 16 years. Nuraddin Zengi was the strongest and most dangerous of the Turkish rulers the Crusaders had ever encountered. This was the period when the Fatimids, under the rule of the Shiite Arabs, who were once one of the greatest powers in the region and who were constantly slapped by the Crusaders, began to collapse. Naturally, both Zengi and the Crusaders had their eyes on Egypt, which was incredibly rich at that time. After this, Zengi divided his army into two and sent his general Shirkuh and his nephew Saladin at the head of an army to capture Egypt. After narrowly escaping death from a severe illness, Nuraddin Zengi turned towards Lebanon and set up camp in front of Croc de Chevalier, the Crusaders' largest and most powerful fortress, known as the Knight's Castle. Nuraddin had no intention of capturing this exceptionally strong fortress, one of the few Crusader castles still standing today. His only aim was to ease the situation for his general Shirkuh in Egypt and to prevent the Crusaders from reinforcing. However, he was caught off guard by a well-planned sudden surprise attack by the army of 4 Crusader kingdoms, including the Byzantine Empire. The Turkish soldiers tried but failed to repel the Crusaders, and a wave of panic and massacre quickly spread through the ranks. So much so that the Crusader cavalry and knights managed to reach Nuraddin's tent. The Crusaders aimed to eliminate Nuraddin, a constant threat to them, and thereby rid themselves of the Turks once and for all. Nuraddin quickly exited his tent and mounted his horse with the same agility, but he didn't even have time to untie his horse's legs. Nuraddin Zengi was so dearly loved by his soldiers and army that, in this sudden event, one of his soldiers selflessly sacrificed his life to untie him, only to be killed by the Crusaders at that moment. Nuraddin later honored this heroic soldier by providing for all the needs of his family and constructing fountains and libraries in his name. With his horse's restraints removed, Nuraddin, together with his loyal guards, managed to kill all the Crusader knights charging at him at full speed, thus successfully retreating. As a result, Nuraddin experienced his first defeat in this battle. His general Shirkuh and nephew Saladin were also defeated by the Crusaders in Egypt. Following his miraculous display of courage and valor in battle and his narrow escape from death, the Islamic scholar al-Nasawi advised him, "For the love of Allah, please do not expose yourself and Islam to danger by taking the lead in battle. If you were to fall as a martyr, all Muslims would be slaughtered by the Crusaders." To which Nuraddin replied with a response that would go down in history, "Who am I? Whoever protected Islam and Muslims before me will surely do so after me." Consequently, just a year later, Nuraddin once again led his main army against the Crusaders. This time, Nuraddin Zengi alone challenged 4 Crusader kingdoms, including the Byzantine Empire and the Armenian Kingdom. He successfully ambushed the Crusaders with a devastating Turkish war tactic known as the wolf strategy, catching them completely off guard. According to this famous tactic, Zengi initially pretended to launch an attack, pretended to escape from the battlefield with a fake retreat, and gradually destroyed all of the Crusaders by trapping them in a circle with the crescent tactic. Zengi completely destroyed the Crusader army of 12,000 people, consisting of French Crusaders, Armenians and Greeks, whom he hunted in harem, and captured all the Crusader generals, including the Byzantine governor. In the words of the Crusaders, only the alert Armenians who knew the Turks well were saved from the fate of the Crusaders, who were imprisoned in a swamp and slaughtered like victims by Zengi. Armenian commander Thoros did not follow the Turks with his soldiers, but took the opportunity to escape from the battlefield with his soldiers. In battle, Mel, the brother of Thoros, who fought alongside him, narrowly escaped death thanks to the help of their Turkmen uncles who had converted to Islam. Afterwards, Mel secretly embraced Islam and attempted to kill his brother Thoros. Failing to do so, he fled with his entourage and sought refuge with Nuraddin Zengi, declaring his conversion to Islam. With Nuraddin's help, this man, who assumed power after his brother's death, became one of the rare Muslim Armenian rulers in Armenian history. However, Mel was later killed in a plot by the Armenians, and the Orthodox Cilician Armenians continued to rule their kingdom. The Crusaders, facing Nuraddin Zengi, had withdrawn their armies from Egypt to Syria. However, after suffering a severe defeat, Zengi once again sent Shirkuh to Egypt. According to Islamic historians of the period, Shirkuh's army, when departing for Egypt with his nephew Saladin, consisted of over 2,000 Turkmen archers, nearly 6,000 Turkmen lancers, 500 Mamluks of Kipchak Turkic origin, and about 500 Kurds. These numbers might seem small, but apart from very large battles, the Crusaders and Turks generally fought with such numbers. This time, Shirkuh captured Egypt from the Crusaders and executed the Fatimid vizier Shawar, who had collaborated with them. Initially, he became the vizier of Egypt, but 2 months later, after his death, his nephew Saladin succeeded him. Saladin then began raiding the Kingdom of Jerusalem with reinforcements sent by Nuraddin Zengi and managed to defeat the Crusaders at Damietta and capture the strategic city of Aqaba. During this period, Saladin had agreed with his master Nuraddin Zengi to launch a joint attack on the Crusader castles of Karak and Montreal. Such a joint attack could have been one of the most magnificent offensives in history. However, the joint attack of the two great leaders, Nuraddin Zengi from Syria and Saladin from Egypt, never materialized. According to some historians, Saladin withdrew because he avoided meeting his master. Others say Saladin withdrew from the campaign to thwart conspiracies against his power in Egypt by the Crusaders, Fatimids, and assassins, leaving Nuraddin Zengi to continue alone. Nuraddin Zengi subsequently ordered Saladin to overthrow the Fatimid dynasty, which he accomplished. Saladin not only overthrew the Fatimids, but also imprisoned all the heirs of the last Fatimid sultan, preventing them from having children and letting the Fatimid lineage wither away in dungeons, rather than executing them as would normally be expected. During this period, Saladin, as a close friend and mentor of Nuraddin Zengi, sent him 60,000 dinars, valuable goods, jewels, and an elephant as gifts. While personally transporting these goods to Damascus, Saladin also plundered the rural areas controlled by the Crusaders, but refrained from attacking their desert fortresses. Instead, he did something more interesting. He fought and defeated the Muslim Bedouin Arabs who guided and collaborated with the Crusader Franks, driving them out of the region. The Crusaders withdrew their army from Egypt to Syria to meet Nuraddin Zengi once again. However, with the heavy defeat they received, Zengi once again sent Shirkuh to Egypt, and this time Shirkuh captured Egypt from the Crusaders and executed the Fatimid vizier Shawar, who cooperated with them. Although he was the first vizier of Egypt, he died 2 months later and was replaced by his famous nephew, the conqueror of Jerusalem, Saladin. However, when Nuraddin Zengi died at the age of 56 due to his illness, his 11-year-old son remained as his heir, so Saladin declared himself as his protector and seized the throne. With this move, Saladin Ayyubi took over the sultanate built by the Zengis. With the death of Nuraddin Zengi, thus the Zengi Sultanate turned into the Ayyubid Sultanate. After the last ruler of the Ayyubids, Muazzam Turan Shah, was killed by the Kuman Kipchak Turks, the Ayyubid Sultanate turned into the Mamluk Sultanate. According to William of Tyre, an English priest and historian who participated in the Crusades, Zengi was a just ruler, brave, wise, and pious man, although he did a lot of harm to Christians and Crusaders. Except for the Armenians of Urfa who betrayed him, he never touched the local Christian population and allowed them to live comfortably and worship freely in his state. Although some historians claim that relations between Saladin and Nuraddin Zengi were tense from the time Saladin seized power in Egypt in 1170 until Nuraddin Zengi's death in 1174, no war ever occurred between them. Ibn al-Athir, one of the most important Islamic historians of the time, recorded that Nuraddin Zengi, angered by Saladin's return to Cairo, decided to march on Egypt with a large army against Saladin, but later refrained from doing so after Saladin realized his mistake and apologized. It is unknown whether such a war would have occurred and which side would have emerged victorious. However, it is clear that the sole beneficiaries of such a conflict would have been the Crusaders. By divine decree, Nuraddin Zengi passed away at the age of 56, and ultimately his legacy was inherited by the 37-year-old Saladin. As we said, although Zengi and Saladin were completely different people with completely different characters, they complemented each other in history. While it was Nuraddin Zengi who transformed the Muslim world into a power that could defeat the Crusaders, it was Saladin who inherited his legacy to reap the fruits of the victory. The Persian Muslim poet Imad ad-Din al-Isfahani penned a deeply moving poem upon the death of Nuraddin Zengi. I am astonished at death, which came in the guise of an angel to Sultan Nuraddin. How can the wheel of fortune stop in the midst of the world? Since the loss of Nuraddin's light, the religion is in darkness, and time mourns the loss of its leader. O Muslims, mourn the protector of Damascus and its people to its farthest borders. Who now will assist Islam, its pillar and backbone weakened in battles? Who will capture the Franks and their kings, reform the rebellious captives? Who will lead the country and its army to victory? Who now will fulfill the command of jihad? Who will lead the vanguard in early battles to pioneering conquests? You are the one who revived Muhammad's religion after his death. You are the one who re-established the past glory and honor of Islam. You dug trenches beneath many castles, establishing your throne over their hollows. You left many Byzantine kings to the mercy of sharp swords, along with their palaces. You conquered their fortresses, captured their people, settled in the heart of their lands, taking those in the palace captive. O bearers of Nuraddin's coffin, what are you doing? Be slow. I wonder how you can lift the mighty Mount Seir. The angels of heaven gathered around his grave to bury him. O Nuraddin, you have donned the silken robes of paradise and earned the pleasure of Allah. Having deserved all rewards, you are established in the highest tier of the Firdaus paradise. Feel free to ask in the comments if you have any questions. You can also share your opinions and requests with us. Stay tuned for many more videos. If you liked it, don't forget to like the video and support our channel by subscribing and activating the notification bell. Looking forward to seeing you on beautiful and healthy days. Goodbye.